Its language misleads people, especially children, into thinking that male and female are arbitrary designations and can change. That is simply not true. Dr. McNamara claims that social and medical interventions are the only evidence-based treatment and that scientific evidence shows it is life-saving. Without it, she's warning us, kids will commit suicide. Well, a growing number of countries have effectively banned the care to which she's referring. And thank God there's been no wave of suicides or other mental health catastrophes. 3 years ago, Finland placed strict limitations on medical interventions for minors. Sweden did the same thing after a 14-year-old girl was found to have osteoporosis and spinal fractures from puberty blockers. An investigation concluded, quote, the risks of anti-puberty and hormone treatment for those under 18 currently outweigh the possible benefits. The UK conducted a review and called the evidence very low. They've also placed severe restrictions on the care that Dr. McNamara calls life-saving. Norway also analyzed the data and has made similar changes in policy. The National Academy of Medicine in France warned, quote, great medical caution must be taken in children and adolescents, given the vulnerability of this population and the many undesirable, even serious complications the therapies cause. Doctors in New Zealand and Australia have published similar statements. Is Dr. McNamara suggesting that all these countries are rejecting evidence-based treatment and placing their kids at risk of suicide? Regarding that point of view, Finland's gender expert, Dr. Rita Kaltiela, said, quote, it's purposeful disinformation, the spreading of which is irresponsible. All 7 countries, and Florida too, of course, concluded that kids don't need their development interrupted, the girls don't need their periods stopped and their voices lowered, and the boys don't need to grow breasts. What they need is psychotherapy. I have other objections to Dr. McNamara's testimony. She insists that her position, only hers, represents standard medical care. What she doesn't want you to know is that there is no standard. There's a debate. There's a fierce debate. And on the side opposite her stand such prominent figures as Stephen Levine, Kenneth Zucker, Paul McHugh, and James Cantor, among others. These doctors are giants in the field. They have been treating transgender patients and gathering data and publishing papers about them, and I mean no disrespect here, but since before Dr. McNamara was born. The point is that those veteran clinicians and others who have wisdom and experience are ignored because they disagree with the current narrative. They're against medical interventions for the same reason those 7 countries are. There is no evidence of long-term benefit.
Major props to Dr. Miriam Grossman. And you know what? She's really brave. You might not realize this. Her state medical board, if they're liberal, they could try to take away her license to practice medicine. So speaking up like this is a really big deal. And it's a shame that we see doctors and hospitals sort of going along with this psychotic gender ideology that you can become any gender you want or you can change that. You know why they're all saying this? Because it's big money for hospitals. Huge. All of these surgeries are extremely profitable. And your children, my children, every child out there is just a pawn in their game. They can experiment on them to see how these surgeries work. See how these puberty blockers and these drugs act on children's bodies. The sad part is when you get these surgeries and you take these drugs, the changes are irreversible. You will be completely sexually dysfunctional, unable to engage. You will not be able to have children naturally. It is a sickness. There are 2 genders. You know when you're born, you're a male or you're a female, XX or XY. And we need more brave doctors who are willing to stand up, even if the consequences are dire. Because we're talking about children here. And shame on these parents that allow these decisions to be made for children before they're 18. We don't allow our kids to drive a car, get a tattoo, drink a beer. You know, some of these surgeries and transition processes start as young as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Ask yourself, would I let my 6-year-old drive me to work tomorrow? I think the answer is no. You know, when my son was 6, he liked to think he was a firefighter and Spider-Man. Maybe one day he'll be a fireman and be a superhero. But I didn't let him change his whole life to do it. You know, there's a funny meme on the internet that says, when I was 6, I thought I was a pirate, so they took me down to the clinic, gave me a peg leg, gave me an eye patch, and a hook on my arm. No, that's not what we're doing to children. Because this is all make-believe. There are 2 genders. Stop destroying our children.